Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to The Reason We Learn. I'm your host, Deb Fillman, and I'm waiting on my co-host, Anne Taydus, otherwise known as Virginia Warrior Mom. She will be joining me shortly. Just had a couple of internet issues, but we're working those out. This is the thing, guys. We're just moms. So every once in a while, we have technical issues. If you're new to the channel, I am glad you're here. Welcome. I hope you'll consider subscribing so you can be notified each time I make a new video or go live with shows like this. This is the channel where I educate parents and everyone about what's going on in education in America, and I hope you'll want to subscribe. Also, please like and share this video so more people can join us. Anne is here. Let's.
Am I here?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Okay. I was just telling everybody, we're just moms, no dark money here. So we don't have
I was even here early and I have it all set up and I give up.
Anyway, so I'm gonna turn it over to you after it. Let me just finish the housekeeping, which was basically asking people to subscribe, like, and share the video because this is live and you never know, you may have questions. This is some pretty heavy stuff. Just real quick, yesterday we did a live with Lisa Logan about SEL's evil twin, personality and mental health screening, psychology screenings that are going on in our schools. And you're probably going to want to go back and watch that one as well. That delves into panorama ed, DESSA, what we're going to talk about today. But it was an hour and a half stream. We covered a lot, but there's more. There's stuff we didn't get to. So Anne said, Deb, I got more to say. We have more to show. So we decided to jump on today and do a quick deep dive into DESSA, right?
Yes. An aperture.
So buckle up, buttercups. Anne is going to take us on a whirlwind ride through some other documents and some stuff that she found going down the rabbit hole of DESSA. Anne?
All right. So the one 2021 back to school guide. You got that?
Okey-doke. Yes, ma'am. I've got all of it. I can just literally click through. You tell me where to go and we can go.
So at this point, they have so much data on me, and I'm old, that when I go to log in, I don't worry about it. So I signed up as an educator under Aperture, and they sent me this nice little now this would have been back to school for this past fall. And it's talk about click into a rabbit hole. So this is the back to school guide. And if you, it'll go through your history. So it goes into an introduction. If you want to scroll down.
Oh, it's a scroll down. Oh, sorry. There's more.
Yeah. So go to the one that says the story of Aperture education. There we go. Right there. So this is how I got started. Was I found the Aperture contract for Chesterfield.
Oh, there. It's nice and big.
Yeah. So, and then, which got me thinking, well, what is that? What does it do? Because it doesn't really say. And that led me to DESSA, which we'll get to in a second. And so this is how it plays together, is that Aperture is a combination of Apperson, which used to be like a printing company, kind of like Kaplan did for textbooks. And then with Devereaux, which is where the DESSA comes in for DECA and all that. So that's an interesting rabbit hole to go down too, is the Devereaux Center for Resilient Children. And so that's kind of an explanation of how they relate as what is to who. And then you can scroll down and you will love when you get to the numbers, like 1, 2, under this fall. Yeah, one more down. One more. There we go. Because it's got all the buzzwords. It's about building meaningful teacher relationships, trauma, fostering a supportive school culture. So it's very obvious who Aperture, what they're, and then you scroll down right there and there's Castle, if you to the next page. But not only that, but you'll see it tells you who all the players are in this document as we go through it, and then right there under formative assessment,
a universal formative assessment.
Right.
Okay.
And not to mention, we'll get to who that universal is, and it's the WHO. So but it's right there, Castle, and then you've got PBIS, and then the multi-tiered structure. So it's, for those of us that have been doing this for like longer than a second, those are all like, we know the whole umbrella of MTSS, that it all builds in together.
Can I mention a couple things?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So for those who are kind of new to dissecting this,
yeah,
these words can kind of make your brain go a little fuzzy and you'd be like, I don't know what's bad about that. It sounds good. I mean, they're talking about, we want mental health and we want to have good things. It sounds good, right? Okay, here's the problem. I'm just going to go back to this part here where it talks about how, improving educators' well-being and how COVID's taken a toll on the mental health and well-being. Schools need to acknowledge and improve mental health. Stop. Schools need to improve and acknowledge mental health and address ongoing concerns and start the healing process. I'm sorry. When did school become therapy? When did school become the diagnostic center for my mental well-being? Never mind the therapeutic clinical site where I or my children or the teachers are getting their mental health care. So this premise, what I want audience members, parents, etc., to tune into are hidden premises. A premise basically is a claim. And it's not a claim like, we think this. They're not really upfront about saying it. They just bake it in there like, this is a foregone conclusion. Schools need to do this. Y'all need to be reading and listening and saying, but why do you need to?
Right.
Why do you need to? Even if I acknowledge or accepted that this was true. Let's say it was true and that's in question. That's debatable. So they take two things that are debatable. One, that everybody is struggling with mental health, like everyone, universally. Right. And second, that school needs to do something about it.
Right.
No. Now, you might say, I think it's good if school is like aware that some of the students might be struggling so they can keep an eye out and maybe like consider that as a possibility if somebody's having a hard time in their academic subjects. Okay, I could go there. And then you refer to the proper clinicians and people who need to handle that. This is totally different, you guys. Like, it's a foregone conclusion. Everybody is mental and school's the right place to deal with it. Anyway, I had to put that out there because it's really easy to think that this stuff is benign. And then you go back and question the premise and you go, wait a minute, what? Right. Okay. So
yeah, because these are, a lot of these are not this one particular, but they're documents that months later, after, thinking that CRT was the problem, that I just kind of stick things away. Well, that doesn't look quite right.
And this too, and look, fostering a supportive school culture will help the whole school feel connected and supported. Like the whole school is a moving blob of collective consciousness that it feels. The school feels. The school community has feelings. I picture this throbbing brain just going, wah, wah, wah. Like, no, collectives don't feel things.
Right. It's like every time I hear the word meaningful or something, that I just think of like, meaningful to whom? Like, that's the whole thing about who, it leaves it open to interpretation. But look over at number 4, plan a back to school SEL blitz. Because this is what went to I signed up as an educator. So this is what would have gone to educators. It's kind of like the one from Fordham. Did you ever see the one selling SEL? Like literally how to sell it to a Republican versus a Democrat? With a blitz. I'm laughing because I haven't seen, I wasn't laughing the first time I saw it.
I'm stuck on this. Plan a full week or more. Hi, welcome back. You've been shut out of school for 2 years and we're presuming you're all mental. Let's spend an entire week marinating in our feelings.
Yeah.
Collectively in front of all the peers you haven't seen in 2 years.
On SEL. Consider spending the whole week.
You've lost so much actual learning, knowledge, practice, everything. But come on back and let's do group therapy because we're really good at that. We're so good at teaching you to read, write, and do math. Now we're going to practice
not
psychology.
what did you do this summer, or what made this summer amazing? Like things that I remember, like the first week back. No, they want to jump right in and have a full blown week. Just in case you established a personality of your own the last 2 months, let's go ahead.
The last 2 years,
yeah,
or the last 2 years.
Let's go ahead and rein that back in. And then, so we would like use data to create a sustainable SEL program to support students and staff all year. I haven't seen any bit of evidence that anything is sustainable. I have yet to find anything that's not written by somebody who founded Devereaux, founded Castle, is a part of any of these ed tech companies that isn't fluffing each other. But yeah, there's the, you go down, there's the character effect.
Oh my God.
Yeah, have fun with this one later when you can dig through it.
Thank you for reminding me. I have to go back to the other one and put all the links from yesterday, and I totally spaced because I'm promising people I'm going to put all these links in the description, and I'm like, I got to go eat dinner.
Most that I got were from here, so you can pull them all like straight out of this one.
Okay, guys, this one makes me crazy. Early warning system.
That's what all of that I found. That's where I found is that if you were to Google that early warning assessment, there is so much stuff. That's where I found a lot of this stuff linking the National Association of School Counselors. That's what it's called and I found that in here, and that's what I started Googling, because Google, you can find a lot in there. I don't know, people, they might track you, but whatever. Early warning system is what they call it.
Guys, if this stuff worked, because it's not like they didn't come up with it yesterday.
No,
if this stuff worked, we wouldn't see academic performance that looks like this. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm sorry, my bad. I'm talking about working because I, as a parent, expect my children to go to school and learn things for themselves. For the people creating this stuff, it's working beautifully. We have off the charts levels of kids who have anxiety, depression, and require medication. Not require medication. We have off the charts levels of kids who aren't living in reality anymore and think they're a different sex than they were born and want everyone to validate that. Mm-hmm. We have kids who can't read graduating high school in the top half of their class, but they can't read at all. But to the people who create this, if they feel good about themselves, that's what matters. If they feel good about the community, oh no, even if they don't feel good about the community, if they feel lousy about the community, if they think the community is a horribly oppressive, terrible, white supremacist, racist place, so much so that they're going to go out all summer and protest and riot just in time for the midterms, success.
Did you see, so I get the notification from Cardona, because I'm signed up as an educator with the DOE too, that he made a statement about these assessments, the standardized tests and everything, stating that even though kids are taking harder classes, more are graduating than compared to 10 years ago, and their GPAs are higher, that because their standardized tests are so abhorrent, that it's due to grading, teachers lying. I put it on Twitter last night, but I was like,
so he admits that?
Yeah, but it came, and I was like, wait, you're the one that is encouraging grading for equity, but he did it in such a way that, you know how he does things, that it was like, and teachers are lying, and it's not in the way that I'm telling them to. It's in a, he was talking about bell curves. It's bell curves' fault, not nobody's learning anything, and teachers can't falsify these tests like they can their grades. But it was just a Cardona moment like no other.
How about this one? As an educator, one of the strongest impressions you can make on students is how you make them feel. No, just no. I'm sorry. That's, how you make an impression on a student. So when you respect the student enough to actually expect something from them.
Right.
Yeah, that's how the teachers that made a lasting impression on me were the ones who cared enough about me and my individual success to make demands of me and expect more from me and tell me I could do better than I was doing. And you know what? Sometimes that made me feel like crap.
Right.
Because I had to actually acknowledge that I wasn't working very hard and I was phoning it in. So I didn't feel very good in that moment. But guess what? I rose to the occasion and I worked harder. It's all about how you do it. But they weren't putting as their first value, I want to make her feel good. No,
but it's like parenting. Like there's a fine line. Like you can't be like, I mean, I had teachers, but that were buddies, and then I had teachers that were hard asses. But it's just like parenting. Like they know. It's like we're out. When I found out that they were still my sixth grader, thank God it was her last day. When I found out that they were still doing how many attempts do you need until you pass it? And you're 8 days late on your assignment, which I was told ended in fifth grade. I asked them, can I opt her out of that? I would like her to have some sense of accountability, please. And they were like, no, it's just something that some teachers choose to do, even though the policy technically ends in fifth grade.
And this is also not true. So it's another one of those premises, guys, where they'll tell you something is a fact that is simply not a fact. Like when students lack strong, whatever that means, supportive, whatever that means, relationships with their teachers, whatever the hell that means, it impacts their academic achievement, increases their likelihood to engage in disruptive behavior, and even factors into their decisions to drop out. Prove it. Prove it. No. First of all, I need to know what all these subjective terms mean.
Right.
Because again, looking back on some classes I did very well in, I can't even tell you what the teacher's name was. Don't even know. Okay. But they gave me interesting material and it was relevant and they did a good job of presenting it. And my classmates were held to standards where they weren't allowed to run around and to be disruptive little a-holes. And I honestly don't remember how the teacher made me personally feel.
Right.
But I was able to learn in that class because they maintained order and so forth. So they're placing relationship with the teacher above many other factors here, not even talking about those other factors. And your relationship with your teacher, I would argue, is not what they say it is. Obviously, if you have an antagonistic, terrible relationship with a teacher, that's probably not good. But the opposite of strong and supportive, whatever, or I'm sorry, the opposite of antagonistic and terrible does not necessarily mean strong and supportive.
Right.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, what I'm saying in like the public school system is that it's created like that we're buddies. And the teachers, when we talk, like, I can't wait until the August Chesterfield County meeting when they have to, because students, it'll take us 2 years of fighting to get the actual report of how many left this year, just like it did this year from the last 2 years. But the personnel actions, they have to report at school board meetings. And it'll be interesting because of how many teachers I've had contact me in the last couple of weeks. And they've said that literally the children, these are middle school teachers that said that the environment is one that they have to leave. These are like 20-year educators because the students run the building. This was after the middle schoolers had a pride walkout. Middle schoolers, parents were not notified. Nobody was. The only reason I found out about it was because a teacher notified me. But that was at Robius, one of the notorious schools here. But the teacher said is that they think that so they talk about the lack of respect, and teachers that you hear from, which would be the EA, is the CEA, the VEA that come from the NEA. They blame parents. It's not the teachers, but it's the ones who are not part of the unions that are not listening to this madness all day long that are like, no, it's 100%. You got it right here. And this is what we've been taught to do. And we're seeing the ramifications of it. And the children are running amok. And I'm not saying that it's not some parents' fault, but it is certainly a product of this restorative justice, PBIS hell. We've been living here 13 years. It's been going on here in Chesterfield County.
This is all bullshit, by the way. Sorry, excuse my language, but this entire paragraph, it might as well say blah, 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 blah. It's complete BS. EQ is like your horoscope. This is BS. Total and complete BS. As far as this shows students you care, develop mutual trust, what we're basically doing with all this, in addition to wasting a lot of time and taxpayer dollars on one specific value, which is relationships, which is being grossly overvalued here. Okay, as I just said, I think we can all look back to classes where we were effective, we learned a lot, et cetera, and we don't even remember the teacher's name, never mind how to close personal relationship with them. Never mind, do I think teachers and kids now have very close personal relationships beyond like third grade. But beyond that, this is selecting for a specific kind of teacher. Let's get straight to it. The type of person, the type of adult that is going to read this and feel like, oh, yes, I want to do this. This is wonderful. And I'm going to be really good at this, is a very specific kind of person. And there are lots and lots of excellent teachers, excellent instructors, wonderfully inspirational leaders and people who really ought to be teaching or would be great around a wide variety of kids. Because remember, kids are different too. Not every kid is touchy-feely. I want to have a relationship with everyone. So they're selecting one specific kind of personality to be a teacher. Only that person's going to be successful doing this. I could never do this. I never would do that. I quit. I would not do this. So those people who are of a completely different kind of personality are not welcome. They won't be effective doing this thing that's now expected of them as the highest value. They'll stand out like sore thumbs, and you're going to have like one kind of person doing public school teaching. That's it. That's never good. You want to talk about diversity. It's not just diversity of thought in terms of my opinions, whatever, because by the way, the kids shouldn't really know your opinions about politics, but diversity, real diversity is like diversity of kinds of approaches to learning. Okay. And we all know that one kid responds really well to this. Another kid responds really well to the like very matter of fact, this is the facts, this is this. And some other kid won't respond well to that. Okay. But it takes all kinds. And guess what? The outside world is made up of all kinds of people. It's not made up of everyone's going to develop mutual trust in a close and personal and supportive and wonderful relationship with you. No, they're not. They're not even going to want to.
Right.
They're going to have other things to do, and you're going to need to adapt. And not everybody is really geared up to kiss your butt all day.
Yeah. That right there is a good segue. Do you want to jump to the one that's 0528? It's an image. It's the DESSA mini, because yesterday we talked about how we have the teachers assessing.
Hang on, let me go back and find it. 05, which one is it?
0528. It's maroon and white. But yesterday we talked about the teachers who think that this is great, and they want to brainwash our children, and they hate the unmasked kids, because unfortunately that's the reality that we're in. They hate the children. I mean, they treat them abhorrent. They put pole vaulting sticks in between their rooms here in Chesterfield County. Nobody does anything about it. They put masks on them so that they can take pictures and post them on the county webpage. Nobody does anything about it. So, but like you just said, what about the teacher that thinks that this is, like you just said, you would just quit? Well, there aren't many people like us that are would be like, nope. For one reason or the other. So they're going to, on the other side of the coin, they're going to look at this that they now have to do to keep their job, and without knowing the implications of this thing that they have to fill out. And this is the DESSA mini. This is the one, if you have Aperture or any program having to do with Devereaux, this is the mini. This is the one that's done kindergarten through 8. That's a couple times a semester. Or I found that one example yesterday that says daily. Like, it gives you options.
Daily?
Yeah. Remember that pretty little like Candyland, and I had the red circle around it?
Yes.
It was like suggested uses for DESSA. And it was like a couple times a month. It has like a minimum. You have to at least do it this, but you can do it this. So this is the DESSA mini. So if you have Aperture, you know that at K through 8, at least, they're getting this. That's Chesterfield County, because we don't go to self-reporting until 9th through 12th, where they fill out the full one. So we know here they have this. I had a talk today with the only administrator left in this county who has listened to me over months of proving that they're lying to him here because he's new to the job. And he said that he has put in a thing to pull Aperture and Devereaux. Thank you. It's a small, tiny step, but he finally listened because he was on the board that he didn't know he was on that developed this in 2017 with James Lane. He was on a minor, tiny committee of the omnibus. How does that sound? In 2017 that developed this. Mm-hmm. He didn't even know that he was on like a different portion of it, like the technology. So he was like, I didn't know I was a part of that. But these are the questions that they're asking. Within, what was it, the last 4 weeks? 4 weeks. So it has to be within every at least once a month they're doing this. Did the child accept responsibility? But then it has these never, rarely, occasionally, frequently, very frequently. What adult really ever knows how to, I just kind of go, because who's going to ponder? You got 30 kids running around in an overcrowded public school.
Right.
And again, they're subjective. Pay attention. How many times did you actually catch them or see them?
Exactly.
So this is what the DESSA mini is. And it's, again, this is logged and this is pulled. And then let's see, what's that? The orange one.
Do you want me to keep going?
Oh, you can, no, which one's next?
So the next one is,
that's just a different copy of it.
A different copy of it.
Oh, that's the one that mentions, I think, the WHO with Aperture at the bottom.
Yeah. Only screener to meet universal criteria set forth by the World Health Organization. Yay. That's awesome.
Yeah. So you want to talk about quickly about why that's
quickly?
You
want to quickly talk about the World Health Organization being a problem? No, go for it. I don't think I can talk about it quickly. But do you want me to go back? I have everything. So were there other documents before this?
No, we can go through them. Yeah.
All right. So let me go to the where we were.
Yeah.
After the school guide was the anxiety slideshow and then the toddler form.
Let's go to the one real quick. Where is it? I wanted to show, because we were talking yesterday about what I found from Chesterfield.
I mean, I still think that thing that showed, I mean, I think if people didn't see yesterday, I'm going to show. First of all, I want you guys to see something. I'm going to go ahead and show you this crazy thing. Check this out. This is what this girl sends me. This is the research maven. Okay. So when we tell you that it's a rabbit hole and there's stuff upon stuff upon stuff, when you start looking, they're not really hiding this. So when we
just have to learn how to
interpret, it's not like we
it.
had to break any rules to find this. This is out there. So we started with that guide that she showed you, right? And then the pink thing was the DESSA mini over here. And one of the ones that Anne showed yesterday that really blew my mind was, I believe it is this one. This is the one. Yeah. This one, look at these things. Hyperactivity, attention problems, conduct problems, aggression, depression, anxiety, anger control, emotional self-control, etc. These things were coming from assessments and probes done of the students that parents didn't know were happening. Very often teachers were filling them out this isn't self-reporting.
Yeah. If you pull out the one that doesn't look like it was self-scanned, at the top, it says DESSA. It's 520. So this is one that instead of scanned in, that somebody actually, it was like a computerized version, and it says DESSA at the top. And it says optimistic thinking, self-management, goal-directed behavior. And then down at the bottom, it has hyperactivity, aggression, conduct problems. So just so we're clear that nobody's questioning what this says, is that, right? It says DESSA. anxiety, depression, like somatization, adaptability. What is adaptability to like?
I would like to know their definitions of all these terms. And are the teachers, whoever's doing these screenings, are they aware, especially the ones where it's not self-reporting, where the teacher's allowed to do it, I think in many cases up to, up to 8th grade without the parents ever even knowing or approving or whatever?
Nope, because Obama and FERPA made school. This is where it all, you'll read FERPA and you'll see, but it says parents have to give consent. Well, no, Obama made school officials parents. He made the schools parents. So when we talk about parental consent, if he got rid of he made the teacher the parental consent. So that's where you can read it and be like, but look, it says
and
it right
all
here.
This data on your child is stored. And so, the reason this is, as we talked about yesterday, the reason this is such a problem is that they're using these scores for so many purposes, some of which we know about, some of which we don't know about yet. So they have all this stuff they either think they know about your kid, or they, they decide they know. In other words, like these definitions are their definitions. They could next month, they could change the definition of self-awareness and use this same data.
Well, we know from Castle is that even when they switched to transformative SEL, what they showed you was alarming enough. But when that week that we were like, well, how did you find this stuff? And I showed y'all that even what they report as like social awareness, they even tell you what they really mean. And it's climate, it's race, it's social justice. They tell you, well, that's
how many friends do you have of a different race?
Right.
And that could be used against your child. So maybe they don't have any for reasons completely beyond their control. Maybe they've tried and been shoved aside. I mean, I can't imagine why that would happen. White people are the awful oppressors, whatever. So you try to make a friend who isn't white and they tell you to get away, Snow Roach or whatever. And then your child is judged harshly because they don't have any friends of a different race.
Right.
Or something, or maybe they're just not up on their climate, alarmism facts and they get something wrong. There's so many ways for them to decide that your particular kind of child is not in favor.
Yeah.
Or conversely, is exactly the kind of child they want to use for their purposes. And then they may, pet and flatter them and whatever them to the point where they come home to you and they're insufferable. And you're like, where did you get this swelled head that you didn't earn?
Right? My daughter came home questioning me and I was like, and that was right. Like, I think 2 weeks before I started understanding this a little bit, because I thought, like, what planet am I on? Like,
oh, no, this is an excellent question. Just an average man asks, where is it? Here it is. If they're asking medical-based questions, it should be protected by HIPAA. Aren't they committing violations of patients' privacy rights by sharing it?
I wish. And trust me, I've tried to. My daughter got asked what prescription medications were in my house. And I had to figure out HIPAA cannot apply when FERPA applies. Is that they have written it, is that you want to talk about Obama? They have written it in such a way, they have changed everything applicable this all led up to what we're seeing now, is that they have adjusted documents like FERPA to protect children in public education. And they have, is that you would think that, but they have written it in such a manner that now HIPAA only applies to actual medical facilities, not medical professionals or programs that should be medical professionals. Because kind of this short version of it is that anytime FERPA applies, HIPAA goes out the window. Because I tried to, in multiple occasions, like when they violated my daughter's medical mask exemption, tried to go after them for HIPAA and different things. But yeah, you would think that. But even the National Associations of School Counselors, the National Association of School Psychiatrists are all in on this. Like, you can pull up their web pages and they're 100% down with this. So it's so hard to find any actual information I'm not a psychiatrist. And that's what I think, having Saya Sophia on at 6, I can't wait, because to hear somebody that is actually educated in this, just talk about it and not just kind of be interpreting what like my brain cells and my common sense tell me. But you can, it's almost, and they get, so I looked up code of ethics for school psychiatrists, and you would think that there would be like a very specific, like, first do no harm, like, but it's been rewritten to follow. It doesn't even make any sense anymore.
What the heck is this? The privacy and equity implications of using self-harm monitoring technologies.
That is by a group. It's a student privacy parent group, and that's kind of like, oh, it's helpful, but it talks specifically about how these what we just saw was that these harm, that's what these essentially are, is that they're calling them like prior warning indicators tests for like prime problematic, is that this goes through, and it's the closest thing that I could find to a self-harm, like what's wrong with it, because like there's a couple studies, but nothing really like, but it has a lot of like great.
Well, this is talking about monitoring systems, computerized programs that monitor students' online activity, and school issue devices. So think about that, guys. They have monitoring systems in the devices your kids use for school to allegedly track whether they're likely to self-harm. But as they're pointing out, despite the increased use of these tracking devices, which, come on, do you really believe that's what they were for in the first place? Or do you think they just wanted to monitor your kids' every friggin' keystroke and claim it was to see, prevent them from harming themselves? Because that would sell it to parents, wouldn't it? I don't want my kids to hurt themselves. Yes, please monitor their every move. All right. Well, they're saying it doesn't really work. And by the way, they just gathered all that data on your kid.
Yeah. Anybody that has a Chrome, like my daughter, before I could pull an Office Space on it, the school took her Chromebook from her today. I wonder why, because they know I go through it. But is that they use Google. It's, Google Education, and they've renamed it actually G Suite, so that it's not so like, why would you want Google being a part of your child's education? Because that's another one that they have a contract with, because they use Google Education, that the information explicitly in these contracts says if the county wants access to the data, they have to contact the third-party vendor or the contractor, which is Committee for Children, Second Step, Aperture, if the county wants the data. So all that stuff that they tell you we're using it for educational purposes, really, then why can't you have direct access to it?
Right, exactly. And I mean, look at this. Look at this. It says, the potential harmful outcomes include students being mistakenly flagged, students being unfairly treated once flagged as a result of improper sharing of this status and bias or stigma around mental illness, students being subjected to excess scrutiny by the school in ways that could be stigmatizing and alienating, students having mental health details or their flag status inappropriately disclosed. Count on it. Count on it. Okay. Students being needlessly put in contact with law enforcement and social services or facing school disciplinary consequences as a result of being flagged, students having sensitive personal information such as gender identity, sexual orientation, blah, 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 shared, and students experiencing a chilling effect, making them hesitant to search for needed resources on school devices out of fear of being watched by school officials or flagged by the monitoring system. By the way, this is also true of adults, that every time people talk about red flag laws, people, it chills. People don't want to call hotlines. They don't want to search for help online because they're terrified that because they're feeling sad or they're feeling depressed or they want to watch a video about how to, get some mental health care or something like that, that they're going to come to their house and they're going to take away the gun that they need, perhaps to protect themselves from the reason that they're depressed, maybe a violent ex-spouse or something. In any case, this is really important, that you rarely, if ever, hear about the potential unintended, I'm sorry, I'm super cynical, unintended negative consequences of these policies. And the most important, well, I shouldn't say the most important, these are all important, but this one is really obvious, is that when you're looking at everyone, you're going to miss the guy who shot up at the school in Uvalde, Texas. Because now what are we finding out? Very similar to the other people who are, if anyone was paying any freaking attention to the one kid who's the standout having problem kid, as opposed to we're going to look at everybody, he was obviously troubled. He was having serious problems. The girl who communicated with him about the game on Instagram was calling the FBI. Hey guys, this guy's saying he's going to shoot up a school. So while everybody's so busy scrutinizing every teenager who's going through problems because they're a teenager, it's harder to do. Too much noise, not enough signal. And that's what we're doing. We're taking in too much data. Too much data is toxic. Not my line. That's Taleb, but it is. And this is proof, because now we've got scrutiny on everybody. People are like, why are you scrutinizing me? What are you doing? But we know that having a close person, a relationship, improves outcomes. So we're going to scrutinize you. Don't you feel closer to the people who scrutinize your every move and take your emotional temperature constantly? Imagine your best friend going, how are you feeling? How do you feel today?
That's my mother. And I wanted to jump in last night when you said that, is that every time I open the door, my mother's like, how are you feeling today? And so every time I say, and she, like, if she's watching, sorry, Mom, but every time that I go to open the door, it's like my anxiety rises, because I know the first thing out of her mouth, and if I'm having whatever day, that's the first thing out of her. And it does affect how you feel when the first thing, God, I don't want to answer that question, or it does, like,
it does not make for trusting close relationships to scrutinize people.
No.
In any relationship, it's like there's a limit. It's a limit. Like, wait for a signal. Wait for some reason to say, is everything okay? But, when you're like, now we're going to see how you're feeling. We're going to do it again tomorrow. And then let's talk about it some more. I know you don't know me from a hole in the wall, and I have creepy staring eyes. You ever seen the TikTok teachers and people online? They all have these eyes. Like
you said that the other day. They all look the same.
No, they look the same. They have the thing with the eyes, and they the way they like do this thing with their neck when they're talking. It's like, are you actually a chicken? Like, I'm very confused about how they hire people. Can you do the chicken thing with your head? Yes, you can, teacher. Okay.
Did you see the one with that I shared today from? It's one of the. It's for the they want to do year-round sex ed, and it's. Did you see that? That's what I woke up to this morning, and that's one of the groups that it was specifically named, along with Planned Parenthood of Virginia and the new health PE sex ed SOLs that they adopted. That was how I started following that group, and I woke up and I haven't seen much from. And that popped up, and I was like,
when they do year-round reading, let me know.
Yeah.
Year-round. When they get the kids reading in the summer.
I was outside this morning listening to it, and he was like, we are horrible people because we don't talk about sex to children all the time from the time they enter school. We are doing them a disservice, and we are terrible, horrible people. And it's always like, you always want to, like, that's why I tell people, if you look at who I follow on Twitter, you'd be like, you wouldn't be able to, because you always stay on top of what the other side's doing. And I'm sure people do it to me, and I don't care. But they're very blatant and obvious. Like this, I'm not some like hacker that went into the system and found this. Like, that's the love they tell you. I had this conversation with my husband earlier, and I said, when they literally tell you, because it's been going on so long and nobody noticed, that they can do this, it's not hidden. Like, there's so much stuff. Like, you can type in early warning assessment in public schools, and it's not anything like alarming. It's like, it's like 80 companies with ads being like, get yours here free for a year. Like, it's not.
Guys, like, if this progresses as I imagine it will towards a social credit system, but where they're going to start, because where they have to start to make any social credit system stick in the United States is all of these kids whose data they've collected and who've been encouraged to sit and tell their innermost thoughts and overshare like crazy with the government are going to be red flagged up the wazoo. Yeah. And if they're not in a state,
won't matter. And
Yeah,
that's what I tell
equity
people
won't
is that
matter. And
that's why I tell this is not about us.
this has nothing to do with equity. This is an
They've
excuse.
divided us by color so that we hate each other for reasons
Yeah.
that we can't even remember what it started, because somebody told us to think this way, that this is what's going on. And this is what, whenever I'm like, listen, they don't care about any of our children. And it's not transgender. It's not white. It's not black. It's not anybody. This is the end game right here, is that they've divided us.
These are people who are obsessed with the idea that if we just know enough about people, we can control their every move and make them behave the way we want them to behave. And that is a very specific kind of person. And you can sit there and say, like, well, gosh, that sounds really evil. And are there really that many evil people? And it's like, I hate to break it to you, but they don't think they're evil. They think they're doing this amazing, wonderful thing. There are plenty of people who are number crunching, I don't know what I would call them. Like Taleb calls them fragilistas. These are people who can't stand not knowing things. They can't stand ambiguity. They hate chaos. They think the flaw of nature, the flaw of human nature, the flaw of everything that they can easily understand and control is that it is random and chaotic. So because they don't have any faith in just, that randomness leads to good things too. They don't have any faith in that. They truly believe you can forecast everything if you just knew enough about it. That's what they're doing. They think this is progress. Most of us have read a science fiction novel or so, or we actually believe in humankind. We have little faith in large groups of people and lots of faith in individuals like our founders did. And we look at this and see it for the dystopian nightmare it is, but they don't. You're talking about a completely different kind of person, of mindset. I think it's evil. Well, a lot of people think it's evil because I think to try to control everything is evil. I think that's bad, but it's presumptuous. You can't. And you create massive, the more you try, not only the more you try to control, but the more people and things you try to control, the bigger the explosion is going to be when you fail.
Yeah. Trust me, I've been a control freak before, and it makes you bonkers. And then you make everyone around you bonkers. But when you have money to back it, I can't imagine, like, I've been poor and tried to be a control freak. I can't imagine if I had the like to be a bazillionaire.
This is like if every neurotic you ever met was a billionaire.
Yeah.
And then when the person who like gets in the car with you and you're driving along and the whole ride, you'd rather you just dove out into traffic than sit for one more minute because they're driving the whole time going, oh my God, that guy, he's going to pass me. And then oh my God, there's going to be an accident and we're going to do this. And like their whole being is kind of like a chihuahua on crack. Like, that's these people. They just have money to burn.
It's elitist. And I mean, and when it comes down to it, the 1% does not care about the 99%. They don't care what color you are. They don't care if you're a liberal or a Republican or a conservative, because you're not them. And so we are all pawns to them. And so as long as we let them continue to do this, to hit the Twitter back and forth, the year of this, all that stuff, which I get caught up in too, because I refuse to bow to anybody, and that's including people trying to drive hate into my life or my children's lives. But at the end of the day is that we have to acknowledge that this will serve nobody, because we know who's running all of it. And when you have the same 15 groups, it was like that post someone shared, I pulled up the group, I'd never heard of them. And just by looking you can Google I would say all nonprofits or ed tech, and just type in the name of the group and then type partner behind it. It will take you straight to the page that they've tried to bury who they're partnered with. Because if you just pull up the group, it's going to take you a lot of clicking to go through and to find out who's partnered. But if you type in, that's just to show you just a tiny amount of the apps that our kids are exposed to.
God.
Yeah, it's and then there's the one that looks like it in the same color. That's even more. It has them broken down into that one.
Wow.
And I have begun I will have it completed one day, a mind map of what connects each one to who. And then there's the same 10 is what I have right now. 10 bazillionaire elitists that they're all connected to by three almost got to 4, but then I found the third connection of like degrees of Kevin Bacon. That's as far as I've gotten to take me back to, you know, the.
And I mean, here's the thing, like, as with most things, some of these offer like little tidbits of value here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing to understand is because they're tech and, you know, and they do all link back to these, you know, billionaire investors, whatever. The number one thing you need to look at is what are they doing with your child's data? Right. What is the privacy policy? And if they are not absolutely airtight, like we don't sell it, we don't share it, we don't share it with the government, we don't share it with anybody, you can, you know, whatever, be anonymous. If they don't allow you to, let's say, pay monthly and have them collect nothing except what you need to run the software, then don't use it.
But the thing is,
anything subscription based where you actually have to pay is preferable to something that's free, because nothing is really free. You are the product,
right?
Just like Facebook, your child is the product.
The public schools are not accountable for the data that they have said. Like, say you were to write a thing saying, I want all my children's data, they have to then write all the people that are in your child's Chromebook, everybody. But you have to prove that you know, but then, so they have to request the data from the company. So they don't even control it. So for them to tell you that we know, no, what happens is they sign the companies like Panorama, they give you their certificate that we do it right. Here you go. And then that's what people like Chesterfield County considers vetted. So as long as they have that little stamp of, we don't share anything with it. That's their checks and balances right there. Yeah. But did you get the green 1110 if you want to pull it up? That's the best one I could find. So when we talk about like Head Start, this is the one that'll break down like, yeah. So
it's so small. I can't, there's no zoom for it.
Okay.
Hang on, let me see if I can.
But
yeah,
me. Oh, I can.
Really.
That's weird. I'll share it.
Well, it has 1 to 36 months, 2 to 5 years, 5 to 14 years, and they just have assessments for each one. But
yeah, DECA is 1 to 36. So 1 to 3 years is DECA, and then or DECA IT. DECA and DECA C, because one's clinical, one's not, is for 2 to 5 years. And then that's where we talked about up until 8th grade is that because DESSA mini, and then DESSA student strengths assessment, second step edition. So that's where you have the kindergarten through 8th grade. The 9 to 12 self-reporting is new. Let
me see if I can get
which is what some issues have been, but that's one that's new, is it used to stop in 8th grade. But so that's where the difference comes in is so
I was trying to download it and open it up, but there's not much to see other than the names of them.
Pull up the green and black baby that says DECA, just so people know it when they see it, what it look. Yep. Well, what could be wrong with that?
Infants and toddlers, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case parents out there think that, you know, well, but psychology, I mean, they must know that. No, they don't. Like I said, you might as well take your baby. You might as well take your baby to the tarot card reader.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things they can look at, like a doctor, your pediatrician. You know, you go to your pediatrician and the pediatrician says, is your child babbling? Is your child making eye contact? Does your child, you know, like, does they do this thing with the eye, like are their eyes moving, whatever. But the amount they can tell about their mental health, if there is such a thing, is zero. You know, you can't even diagnose a child with bipolar disorder until they're practically an adult. I mean, there's anybody who says like, oh, we can do a diagnostic to find out if they have this mental illness or that mental illness. Most people aren't diagnosable with schizophrenia until their 20s. Okay. There are certain things you just really can't diagnose in a growing, developing child or adolescent.
Like the woman I told you about yesterday that told me if children walk up a slide backwards, they're going to be serial killers.
Right. Like I mean, this is nuts. Now, there are some things we know, like, for example, serial killers, if you go back in their history, somewhere in their childhood, they may have like killed and dismembered an animal. That's a common thing.
Yes.
So, but again, now we're talking about child does something aberrant. We respond to that child. Screen. I bet if you screened that kid, if you just like did mass screenings of like everyone in his class, you'd miss it. Because what am I asking to find out about this kid? I mean, none of those questions. They make eye contact. They seem like they help people. Blah 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 blah. You know, there's not a question on there like, do you enjoy dismembering animal? Like that's not there. So the things that you'd get to the bottom of with this stuff, you're not even asking. You're not going to get it. So this is a very inexact science. It's a new science, and responsible child psychologists will tell you that it's as much an art as it is a science, and it's definitely not for someone who's not trained. You start messing around in a kid's head, you can do a lot of damage. It's very often people will tell you it's better to leave well enough alone and just support the kid, love the kid, you know, keep an eye on them if things don't look so good, whatever, than to start going in and doing therapy or like doing mental health stuff. But 1 year old, 3 years old,
yeah.
Insane. Anybody tells you this is worthwhile has lost their marbles.
But pull up the one 525. I don't think we've ever shown that one. So this one, when they say personally identifiable information, realize it's a line graph 525. There we go.
All right, this one I can make clear.
Yeah. So I crossed out the name. Okay. So when they talk about the statewide longitudinal data system, personal identifiable under the SLDS, which everybody took money for 10 or 15 years ago, to link all of our systems with the DOE, okay, which links, and that's where Tim Kaine's bill that he wants to link the CDC, the WHO, all with the DOE and DOJ because he had long COVID. But this, they tell you that first and last name is not personally identifiable information. Now, if you're Bob Smith, it might not be. So this was a DESSA. Now, this was a computer scored, but this is under ResearchGate. And I found hundreds of these with first and last name. And you can go through. And so you want to talk about stuff following you? If I can pull this.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's, argues. Oh, I'd be done. Brags. I don't do that, but whatever. I mean, bad companion?
Yeah.
Delinquent this is listed under delinquent behavior. Is if you're a bad companion. Wait a minute. Biting your nails?
Mm-hmm. You're withdrawn if you rather be alone, or shy. Or
won't talk, secretive, shy, stares, sulks, underactive, sad, withdrawn, total score. Oh my God, you guys, this is sad and creepy and scary. And I mean, the kids are going to school to learn. And look at how much they're being scrutinized by people who are not trained to do this. Why would they even know? Half of this stuff wets the bed.
But look in the top right up by the 80s and the 70s where it says items, total T-score underneath where it says clinical or borderline.
Yeah.
So that's like their clinical, for their score says that they're clinical or borderline, like clinically depressed, borderline. Yeah, might be like, so that's like right there.
This is for a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
14.
And this is DESSA again. This is using
the Nazis would be proud. This is like one step removed from nephrology. Not what's it called? Not nephrology. That's kidneys.
Eugenics.
No, the thing where they measure your head and the shape of your head, and then they decide all this stuff. What is that called, you guys? I don't know the name, but they used to do all this goofy stuff, like measuring parts of your body and then deciding what kind of person you were going to be.
Oh, but, like if your middle finger is longer.
Oh, and then that's another one people do all that. Phrenology. Thank you.
Phrenology.
That's it.
Yeah. And then if you want to see what the 1 to 3 year old, there's a teal form. I got to get to it. What number? That's one? The one. Yes. Can you
3 to 5 years old?
Yes. This is again. So it reads like, oh, well, my pediatrician is asking that. But remember, these are not your pediatricians filling these out. These are not doctors.
Acts in a way that makes adults smile or show interest in him or her.
Yeah. Destroy or damage property. You're asking if a 1 to 3 year old.
This is a 3 to 5 year old, but still a 3-year-old will probably damage it.
Show patience.
By whose definition?
But these are 3 to 5 year olds. And again, it's on that same scale of never, rarely.
Handle frustration well. I don't know. Again, by whose definition? Define frustration and define well.
Touch children or adults in a way that you thought was inappropriate.
That you thought.
But again, what are you logging that for? Like,
accepts another choice when his or her first choice was not available? What?
Yeah. Yeah, you know why I'm texting you all the time.
Looks forward to activities at home or at school? None of your freaking business. Like, honestly, every time I look at these questions, I want to say, none of your business. None of your business. But remember, guys, 3 to 5, the student's not answering these questions. The teacher, the preschool teacher is filling it out according to did the preschool teacher have a bad day? Did they break up with their boyfriend last night? Were they just in a snit because they're not paid enough? Do they just not like this child? Now, I'm going to tell you a dark and dirty secret about teaching. It's not.
You're human.
I'm a human being, and I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it. And you were, and because you're a professional, if you are a professional, you keep that distance and whatever, that it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant because the kid's never going to know, parents never going to know. But there's always that like one kid in the class. There's no better way to put it than say you don't really like them. But I mean, that's a mean way to say it. It's like you don't connect. Like there's just, for whatever reason, you just don't connect with them. And you it feels like you don't like them, but there's no reason not to like them. So as an adult, as a mature adult, you're like, this is in my head. You know, I don't know why this is, but I just have to treat this child like every other child. And so you do. But if you're an immature teacher, an unprofessional teacher, or a person who's just given over to your own emotions that day or whatever, and you're asked to like rate one of these things, or you resent that you have to do this because this is an extra job that you're asked to do that is not really in your job description, and you've got 30 of them to do. How do you know the person's not going to, and this is like in the kid's permanent record. And I'll tell you something, like there were, and it didn't happen in every single class, but there were a couple of kids where I felt this way. And I actually went and talked to somebody about it myself.
Yeah.
I went and talked to somebody because I said, you know, okay, I'm human and I know this is happening, but it shouldn't be happening. And I went and sought like professional guidance from fellow teachers who were more seasoned and said, like, what do you recommend? And they were very helpful and told me things to do, but I was self-aware enough to say that's not appropriate, that you have this weird feeling about this kid. Sometimes it's because the kid's personality was such that it was so different from mine, and they were like, how do you put this, like annoying?
Yeah.
You know, it's just, and so you have to get over that. You have to be like, it's a kid, they're a kid, right? And you just kind of like put it behind you, because I love children. All right, obviously I didn't go to teaching because I don't love children. I do, but they can sometimes a little bit annoying sometimes. So you do this, you get your life in your hands. This is not cool.
That reminds me of a conversation I had with a teacher, and because we were talking about PBIS and how long it had been in this county, and she was like, I would love for you to get rid of it because I hate filling out those stupid PBIS questionnaires. And I was like, and then when I found out about this, I said, is this what you're talking about? And she was like, God, yes, I could not wait to get those done. And I was like, do you know what this is? They told them it was a PBIS, like, just felt they had these teachers have been doing it.
They don't know. They think it's some little task they have to do. This is your child's life.
Yeah. They were like horrified when I showed them this stuff. They were horrified that's because they've been doing it for so long. But I know that you have another.
Yeah, I would have looked at this and I would have said, no way.
That says DECA toddler form. It's a PDF.
DECA toddler form. That's not it. Do you remember the number? Decathlon form. Here it is. I got it.
So this is 18 to 36 months. But the interesting thing is that this one, if you scroll to the second page, so it's got, you can go to the questions, but this one tells you how it's scored. And then grow up one. There's only 3 pages. So yeah, it's got it's scored on the second page, like how you fill in the numbers. So they get 0 points to 1, 2, and then you fill in the numbers over here in the right hand, like under AR.
This is like a Glamour magazine quiz.
Yeah.
But scary, scary version. Like if you get an A, all A's, it's this many points.
So then it's the scale raw score at the bottom. And then for the first time ever, I was able to find out like what everything meant. But yeah, it is. It's like, okay, so what if a teacher adds wrong or doesn't fill, transposes a number wrong? Like that's where this thing of like, even Scantrons got it right more probably than these teachers because they were machines that read how well you filled in a gray bubble. These are leaving it up to people to fill it, make sure that they transpose the numbers correctly, which
the other thing is these types of scoring tools used by a parent. So in other words, if you went to a doctor, as we talked about, and the doctor said, fill this out based on your own interaction with your own child.
Right.
These are not even reliable. So they're more reliable, but they're not completely reliable. And I told a story yesterday about this situation of where I had, to fill out a form and another parent had to fill out a form about the same child. And the child filled out the form because the child was of age, 16 to fill it out. My form and my child's form were virtually identical, and and you fill them out independently. Like you don't even look at each other's stuff. The other form was radically different from our forms. And the doctor in question told us literally that it skewed the scores. Yeah. That had ours been closer, the resulting diagnosis would have been different, but they have to go with what they go with. So there you even have, parents reporting on their own, saying things about their own children that, they might be wishful thinking. I mean, come on, we all know it's not hard to look at this and decide what's a right answer and not a right answer. Like what's
that
a good
reminds
thing
me,
and not
next
a good
time
thing.
we talk is that I found a study like that, and it compared like the same student across their different teachers and how drastic. And then the essay was like, and so then what do you do? Oh, you just kind of take, and so that just reminds me of like that's when I stuck away until you said that. I was like, because when I saw it, and I was like, well, that doesn't really, that's like
right. And then I told the story of when I was referred to a famous child psychologist in 6th grade because I had gone from Montessori school into public school. So I did 4th and 5th in public, and I didn't really like it, but I did okay because they didn't really give you grades much then. Go to 6th grade. And in Montessori, I was gangbusters. I was reading at 3.5, 4. Anyway, so get to 6th grade, I'm failing everything. It's a shit show. I'm miserable. I'm not enjoying school. Like I'm a basket case. I completely imploded. So my dad takes me over to this woman, and her name is Min again. And she wrote a book, and she's supposedly very famous. She told my father after doing all the tests on me that I was retarded.
Just hearing you say that word, but I have to remember that it.
No, I mean, that's what they used to say. They don't use that word anymore. But she said that I was not college material. I was never going to go to college. He should just accept that fact that I was performing at what he could expect me to perform at. And they really shouldn't expect anything better from me because I was clearly, severely, I had, mind you, being whatever age I was, 12, 13, I was filling out all her stupid forms, and I hated her, and I hated being there, and I just lied on everything. And she gave me ink blot tests, and I made up all kinds of wacky, crazy, stupid stuff that I saw. And my dad flew out of there in a rage. He was like, "What?" He's like, "That's the last time I consult with this kind of, snake oil garbage, right?" Yeah. Well, fast forward, I graduated from high school with honors. I went to private high school. Suddenly things turned around, and I graduated with honors. I went to a competitive college, graduated there with honors, went on to an Ivy League graduate school. Obviously, I wasn't, intellectually challenged like she said I was. And yet these are all kinds of inventories that were done. She did them. She observed me. She had me play with things. She had me talk to her. She had me do all this stuff. And this very famous woman decided that I was a lost cause.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I told you the same story is that, my child was not playing. Like, I think about it was 10 years ago. I had a 3-year-old. The preschool was alarmed because she wasn't socially active enough. And she had sensory issues. When anyone would get loud, she would cover her ears. And so they believed, and so they sent me into we ended up getting her evaluated. She went to a specialty PreK program, which by then she was reading to the class at 4. And she has gotten A's her whole life. She's brilliant. But she does on SOLs. And until I took her out this year, I just never talked to her about it because she's just one of those kids that the SOLs are she just does. But I was like, I'm not going to stress her out. But is that when she was 3, that's how much things change in children. Why are we going to log all that? And thankfully, I had a woman, she had an IEP when she went into kindergarten. Her teachers were like, why does she have an IEP?
In kindergarten?
Like, yes. And but then the kids that actually need to be identified as dyslexic, especially here in Chesterfield, go years with parents begging them. And they're like, well, she's too, but she had one in kindergarten. And one of my mom's friends taught in a different county here for 30 years. And she said, she knew about this. And I talked to her the other day. She knew it. She said, when she used to be like, get her off an IEP. It's like, if she doesn't need to be on it, get it off her, because it's going to follow. And I was like, that was, I thought that was the craziest thing ever. Until 2 months ago, I would have thought that was the craziest thing ever.
What the hell is this?
Those were the questions that I just blew up and broke them down. Because I did, when I spoke to those people running for Congress last week, I had to make like a little, and so those are the questions. I just cut them out individually.
During the past 30 days, like, I don't remember when I was teaching, I didn't remember that much detail for a month. Okay.
Yeah.
How considerate was this student over his or her classmates' feelings? You had 25, 30 kids in class. The what?
Those are the questions on the crazy form, but I found in a format, like a website format. There's a couple more that I was able to screenshot and, make it more visible instead of being in like Scantron form. The rest of them I think are in landscape, but it's like, how often did you keep your temper in check? So these would be under the self-reporting. It's like 942, 941.
Okay, so there's this one.
There was only a couple, but it's like overall how focused.
Okay, so was this one, here we go. How focused is a student in your class? And then how often do you keep your temper in check?
So these were different variations between self-reporting and I think there's one more, 947.
Okay, no. Let's see. 947, this one. How well do you get along with students who are different from you? Different how?
Right.
I mean, different from me in what way? Are they like male, female, like, tall, short, smart, not smart?
It's that whole no boundaries. You have to get along. Johnny who's stalking you on the playground, you're a bad friend. It's all of that. But what we've been talking about, it's the perfect summation right here, is that everything we've been saying is not right, it's wrong. Now they're logging it. So now if you have boundaries or the things that we teach our children, personal space, that not only are you a bad friend, but now if you don't admit or, we're going to log and it's going to go onto your personal credit score or whatever they decide to call it under the Great Reset of the American Mind, which is a perfect segue into 6 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly. This is crazy, Anne. This is like an insane amount of stuff. Like I said, I think this is a really good thing to show people. Like, evil laugh. I mean, we didn't even, right? We've been talking for almost an hour and a half and we didn't even go through all of this.
There's so much more. I had to choose like you told me to choose.
Yeah, this is, guys, really, you need to okay.
Wait, hold on. the student private data privacy pack finally got it live today. Go on vafcf.org. It's right there. It's going to a lot of this.
Nope, that's not it.
I don't
VAFC. There we go.
There. Now,
Okay.
Bobby, you did it wrong. Okay, you scroll down. There should be. I told him to make sure it was right there. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. But keep looking. I think there it is.
This one?
Yep.
Okay, guys. So if you go here to Anne's website, okay, and you scroll down on the homepage to the Student Data and Privacy Parent Toolkit, you can click this, and this explains.
And they all have clickable links. Like if it's underlined, it'll take you. But go to the one. And this is, I'll blow up Chesterfield real quick. So where under it says, I think data breaches. Where it says, how does this make you feel? Click on December 16th. And then it says, so the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health reported a malware hacker. Okay. The same day, Chesterfield County Public Schools reported, if you go back, underneath, you'll see reported the same exact day that internet was out because somebody cut the coaxial cable. Like I'm that stupid. And if you don't, this is what I do is I try to figure out, go back up.
Where am I going?
Right where you were to start with, but it's the link right below it.
I feel like I'm on the wrong page.
You are. Go up. Oh, no.
Okay.
Okay, stop.
So this was the December 16th thing.
Yeah, so then right below, the bubble dot right below it, where it says the same day, Sean Smith with CCPS, click on that one. It's underlined, so you can click on it. The same day, Chesterfield County reported that they experienced website and internet outage because somebody cut a cable. I remember my daughter getting sent home that day. So the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health, because we know when the internet goes down, it's like when Facebook went down for an entire day. So the same day that the Virginia Department, but you have to report data breaches. It's part of all this. And so this is what I found today before I launched the toolkit, is proving that, and the Division of Motor Vehicles were hacked the same day that Chesterfield County reported that it had a internet outage. So that was just me being like, I'm going to get you.
Oh, so you're saying they claimed that someone cut the cable when in fact they were hacked.
Yes. And I got
it now. Okay. So I was like, I was trying to put it together and now I get it.
Sorry. My brain immediately goes there.
Okay. So yeah.
Because that's part of the toolkit. It has a bunch of examples of like Chicago, New York, examples of millions of children when they have hackers come in of Chicago. So there's all these data breach. So the implications of it aren't just, even if they're not nefarious in their intent, the fact that they're not safe, the data is not safe. But the toolkit it's 30 pages long, and it goes through and it has forms you can fill out that we talked about yesterday. It talks about, rights that you have as parents. And even though we know it's going to be pulling teeth, there are ways, there are forms to find out your kid's data. It might not be as easy as just fill the form out and then 45 days later you get a packet of your child's stuff. It might be, but there are ways. I've had to make an infographics. And then,
oh my God.
But look at the one below it.
Jesus.
Those are some of them that
these are just all the things that are collecting your children's data.
Those are the major ones that and then it goes through FERPA, it explains it, and it goes through about what like Obama obliterated, I call it gutted, and made the school parents, that kind of thing. And then it goes through COPA, which is the one that you can opt your kids out of, and then below it has the actual forms. and you can just copy and that's the FTC if you want to find out what's going on with COPA. But here it has like,
I'm submitting this form because I,
and then it goes through all you have to do is just copy paste, and then it's got what you want to opt them out of. And so it's got tons. And then also on the page, it's under a different section because I did it first, is PPRA, Protection of People's Rights. But, and then, so then I did the, scroll down one more. Since they're not being transparent with the fact that you can opt out, I told you yesterday, I created I'm going to go ahead and opt my kid out and I think if you scroll down, let's see. Yeah, prior opt out. I made that because if they're not going to offer it to us and they have to, then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to submit because I know enough and they're going to hate Anne because of it. But you're supposed to offer this to me. So since you don't offer it to me, I'm going to go ahead and opt my kid out of it myself. So if they're supposed to offer it and they don't, they have to honor it. I talked to an attorney that if they're supposed to, under due diligence, Cardona, give you an opportunity to opt out and they don't, then they have to take an opt out. So and it's got everything. So
wow. Okay. Well, guys, that's
go take a break for 30 minutes.
So that's
my husband's got to go to work and he's like, I thought you said you'd be 30 minutes. And I'm like, well, it's like an hour with Deb time.
All right. Well, guys, Anne, thank you again for all this amazing info. It's obviously a much bigger deal than they're telling you. And people tell me all the time, I can't homeschool. It's too much work.
When we started talking, I was like, I don't know, I can do it. And now I'm like,
you know who collects your child's data when you're homeschooling? Whoever you decide that collects their data, that's up to you. Yeah. You want to use apps, use apps. You don't want to use apps, then nobody gets it. Then the state will know that your child is homeschooling. That's it. Yep. And depending on your state, then you might have to file like their test scores, or you might have to tell them what you're teaching them. But that's it. They don't get a window into their every feeling. And if you don't take them for well checks, and I recommend that you don't, and I know it's going to be controversial. Deb Fillman doesn't recommend well checks. And I'm like, no. Once you get the shots that you feel like getting, and I'm not going to get into that conversation, but taking your kid to the doctor constantly when they're not going to school opens them up to this.
Yeah.
And it opens them up to all, because the doctor's documenting everything, and it goes into an electronic system that the government has access to. So if your child's not sick, they're hearty, and you're feeding them well, you don't need to go to the doctor every year. You don't need to do that. Yeah. Okay. It's not like school is going to need forms. So you talk about it's so much work and it's so this, it's that. It's like, no, you're going to save money. You're going to save time, and you're going to protect your child's freaking identity, all the parts of it, especially data identity, until they're of age to decide what the hell they want to do with their own data and their own life and their own identity and their own personality and their own everything, without lifting a finger. Just by not engaging.
And don't listen to the people that tell you that because you don't do it and because you're as a mother what your child needs, that you're a bad parent because you don't take them 18 times a year.
You don't need to do that. It doesn't matter that your insurance covers it. It doesn't matter any of that. If your child's not sick, it's not like someone's watching and saying, you didn't take your child for a well check in the last 5 years. Oh my God. And you're like, they haven't been sick. They're good. In fact, they won't be sick as often because they're not in school. All right. Anyway, thanks guys for coming, for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, all the things. Follow Anne on Twitter at Virginia Warrior Mom. And also look down below for her other links. And I'll try to put other stuff that's linkable in the yesterday's show.
All 50 states, I have the opt-out form for SEL. There's it's not just Virginia information. It's most of it's federal. So go take a 30-minute break, and I will be stalking you in 30 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Bye guys. Thanks.
Bye.